Hi everyone, I'm Zen, your astrologer, and welcome to your horoscope for the week of May the 10th, 2021. We have a really powerful and really active sky playing out next week, where there's two very powerful and quite life-changing energy shifts taking place, and both of these energy shifts are very potent psychological energies, but that implicitly means that whatever takes place on the inside will ultimately reflect on the outside, so it is quite significant. One of these energy shifts is the new moon we are going to have in the sign of Taurus on the 11th of May, and the other one is Jupiter entering his home sign of Pisces. And even though this is just a short dip into his home sign, because on the 23rd of June, Jupiter will start retrograde, so move out from Pisces back into Aquarius, yet still, even this very short dip in its ancient ruling sign of Pisces, the home of faith, the home of mysteries, the home of magic, the world of the soul, the metaphysical, it will still be enough to at least foreshadow whatever it will produce when it enters back in this part of the sky for good. But I shall speak about Jupiter entering into Pisces in greater detail later on in this horoscope, because first I have to speak about the superstar of next week astrology, which without a doubt is this new moon in the sign of Taurus, and why this new moon is so very special and quite mystical. Well, on one hand, it has to do with the aspects it holds with other planets, and on the other hand, it is a very synchronistic period, and this might have to do more with numerology. But I'll also get back to that in a moment, because first I have to mention that regardless of how the next week's energies are going to be playing out, we still feel a tension growing, like a calm before a storm. But you know when that calm kind of starts giving you a slight headache? And that is because we're also already under the influence of the eclipses that await us. The first eclipse is a lunar one, a total lunar eclipse on the 26th of May, taking place at 5 degrees and 29 minutes in the sign of Sagittarius. And this lunar eclipse, first of all, it's going to be extremely significant because the sign of Sagittarius has a lot to do with our life philosophies, with our philosophical thinking, our worldview, our faith, our even, let's say, religion, the stars themselves, and what's beyond the sky, symbolically speaking. Of course, strictly personally, it very much depends on where 5 degrees of Sagittarius falls into your own personal chart, but the overall energy, the collective energy, the symbolism of Sagittarius, well, we can basically say that it is definitely going to be a karmic revelation of something to do with humanity's worldview, life philosophy, the collective perception of life, existence, and everything that has to do with it. So always a lunar eclipse, a total lunar eclipse, completes a cycle, brings something to fruition. You know, it might also have much to do with the law, legislation, justice system, especially international law. It might also have to do with legislation regarding traveling, long distance travel, airplanes, or the higher expression of this, space travel, space exploration, cosmology, etc. So something of this nature will come to fruition, or a revelation, or a completion. Something is definitely going to be manifesting. And because Sagittarius is such a subjective energy, Well, it is what we make of it. So in this sense, it's gonna be quite relevant for all of us, regardless if you look at it collectively or individually. Then on the 10th of June, we have an annular solar eclipse in the sign of Gemini at 19 degrees and 42 minutes. Gemini is our words, way of thinking, the practicality of our intellect, our problem solving skills, strictly intellectually speaking, our learning, and the other, as in everyone in our lives, the other person is somewhat a reflection of us. And a solar eclipse is an extremely powerful and karmic new beginning, something that is going to be born out of the primordial chaos, let's say. And, at every eclipse, the veil between the worlds is especially thin. And an eclipse also means that this alignment of the sun and moon takes place very close to the nodes of the moon, our karmic path, the south node, whatever we have to release, the north node being extremely powerful in its exaltation sign of Gemini, that what we have to accomplish. And before we accomplish anything, we have to have the plan, the blueprint, the thought of how we want to approach it, the mindset, let's say, so that which we will think and how we think it and how we can adapt our situation and circumstances, mutable air sign, in order to accomplish that which is clearly the path forward, the north node. That might be basically the key tone of this Gemini eclipse. So at that time, we truly have to know who we are in the very core of our being. Because if we know who we are on a soul level, we know what we can project. We can even know the difference between the mask we put on, as in what we show to other people. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing, because it is impossible for us to show the absolute of who we are. So there is always a mask in every situation. But once we know who we are, our core identities, we know the difference of what other people perceive and the truth that lies deep within us. And if an eclipse is a powerful, karmic and life-changing new beginning, it is extremely important to know who we are, know thyself, again the recurring theme, so that what we're going to be creating through our mindset, through our way of thinking, through our communication, through our intellectual patterns, Gemini again, or through our partners, the other, Gemini, the dual sign. Well, if this is built on truth, on authenticity, on profound self-knowledge, in every sense possible, soul level, but also the human being who it is that we are, also the mask, also our conditioning, also who we became due to our education, etc. So profound self-knowledge will be the key to getting exactly what we're planning and working towards. Not knowing yourself or living in an illusion will make sure that that is also what you get. But of course, these eclipses will be a theme for another horoscope. The reason I mentioned them is that the energy is building up, so we are feeling the pressure deep inside our souls, because first of all, the Sagittarian total lunar eclipse is the first due. So it's almost like we're receiving some kind of cosmic download, again the higher symbolism of Sagittarius, preparing us for something big. And the difference between a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse, well, a solar eclipse has a lot of time to manifest, as in, it is still a new moon, so the seed of intention or whatever seed we planted there has to grow and evolve, and it depends also on our choices and actions, how we take care of it and what we do. And that needs time. Of course, it's also karmic, so sometimes it can go extremely quickly, especially because of the energy of Gemini, yet it's still a seed that needs to grow. Even if it happens the next day, well, it is still based on something that we are planting. Yet a lunar eclipse, well, that is karmic in a different sense. It is almost like our souls illuminating something, like a full moon, but because there is also darkness there, the eclipse itself, that is when we process it in such a deep and profound way that it has already changed us forever. And manifestation-wise, well, that also coincides with some kind of manifestation, may it be an inner one or an external one. So this is exactly why we might feel this imminent storm coming, imminent belief changing, mindset changing, worldview changing, perception changing event entering our lives. And it's, even though, it's just a mental or rather philosophical energy, don't get me wrong, it is extremely powerful because our perceptions are actually everything. Our perceptions are what create our own reality. So this is much more significant and much more, let's say, life impacting than even a material eclipse, like an earth sign eclipse or something that might bring something extremely practical. Our perceptions and worldviews are what actually make us tick, including as a species. So that's how important all of this is. But I do apologize, I philosophized a little bit too much. Let's get back to the main theme of next week, as in the new moon taking place in the sign of Taurus. Now, first of all, this might be a very auspicious day. It might be very synchronistic, perhaps like a day out of the Twilight Zone, not in a bad sense at all. And why I'm telling you this is that 3 planets are exactly at 11 degrees in their specific signs. First of all, Uranus, it is at 11 degrees, and Uranus is in the same sign where the eclipse is going to be taking place. So that is a powerful truth. So whatever this new moon is going to be creating in our lives, a new beginning, a new start, or us trying to create something, it is based on truth and a kind of bitter pill truth, because these 2 weeks preceding this new moon, they were a very powerful reality check in one way or another for all of us, due to the Sun, Saturn, Venus, Saturn, Mercury, Saturn squares, which from different personal dimensions meant reality check, wake up to what is happening in your life, in physical reality, not as much daydream, not as much what is possible, but what you have in the present moment, and what it is that you can do to work with it. And this was also a profound psychological energy, your true self-worth, as in the universe, from different ways, different angles, through different situations and people, showing you the mirror, inviting you to see your true virtues, your true beauty, everything that truly makes you special, Uranus, but also everything that makes you ugly from the inside. And don't take this offensively, but all of us have our inner Medusa, so to speak. All of us have one kind of toxicity or misaligned belief or fixations, Taurus. Values that we just don't want to let go of. Areas where we don't even want to consider changing because not changing gives us a lot of comfort. So everyone's specific to their own situation, yet it was still a powerful reality check. And it wasn't like something cruel or wicked. It might even be the total opposite. The universe might have reflected, look, you have so much potential, you have so much intellectual power, Uranus, you have so many bright ideas, please go and do something with it. Or for another person, it might reflect that you have too many good ideas, so ground one of them, choose something, use one of your potentials at a time. Don't allow your potential actually to turn your life into a living chaos. And this energy also due to the Scorpio full moon, well, it wasn't easy to bear. You know, certain couples broke up exactly to heal, not to punish one another, but they saw the truth that they need to readjust themselves. Like also, friendships changed, partnerships changed, family relationships changed. This was a very powerful inner call to release that which is not healthy. All of that very powerful and not easy, sometimes painful, sometimes bitter psychological wake-up call was leading to this new moon. Because the universe wants us to plant this seed of intention with total honesty towards and to the self. To plant this seed knowing our true worth and value. And also not basing our self-worth and anything that has to do with our self-image based on what other people tell us, not even what other people reflect back at us, may that be honey or vinegar. And not because that doesn't count, that counts a lot, but not when we have to build our futures. When we are building our futures, and this is a Taurian energy, so this is meant for the long run, this is meant to serve us till our retirement, this is meant to basically be a very active part of our value systems for the future. So the self and what we think and feel and what we find true and not matters the most here. Basically, you're not building your future to please other people or to prove anything to other people, may it be good or bad, but you're doing it for the self so that you can thrive and basically from your position of comfort when you thrive to have an influence even over others on the long run. Now another power player which is exactly at 11 degrees in the sign of Aries this time is Chiron. Our wounds, you know, everything that make us extremely vulnerable, and sometimes that is a beautiful thing, but Aries is a fire sign, it is an instinctual sign, and you know, a wounded animal is going to lash out regardless, and that was also part of our basically lesson and whatever the universe wanted to reflect, that one way or another we are also animals, and when we have very painful, bleeding, open wounds, we lash out and there is nothing we can do about it, because that is nature. And the way not to lash out and basically bite others is not to contain the pain, but rather try to bind the wound, try to sterilize it, try to apply soothing ointment, symbolically speaking, of course. And then when there is no excruciating pain, then of course we find it so easy to contain the instinct to lash out. And you know, during these last 2 weeks, sometimes we had this urge to express our truth, as in the pain that we feel, in a way that it might have upset others, and this moment might even have happened without our control. But don't feel guilty, because this had a very strong role to show you just how much pain you're feeling and to be honest about it towards the self. Now, if this wasn't enough, the ruling planet of Aries, Mars, in this emotional sign of Cancer, is also at 11 degrees, which implicitly means that at the time of this new moon, Mars and Chiron are going to be squaring each other. And this was the reason of the lash outs. This was the reason of, being reminded of all our wounds and everything that hurt us, and recurring hurts and themes of how we got hurt coming back into our lives, and us just asking, what is this a punishment? Is this a curse? Am I doing something wrong? This was just to embody the best expression, the highest expression of a debilitated Mars in the sign of Cancer, which kind of makes us healers, like it or not. If we know our wounds, we can immediately see sense, intuitively, of course, empathically, or through life experience, also Mars in Cancer, the wounds of others, and that leads us to understanding, forgiveness, and being able to tolerate when others are in pain. So basically, this led us to the wisdom to be able to own this square. Knowing what our pains are makes us that much more open to seeing the pain of others and knowing what to, let's say, advise for them to feel better with. This new moon also is conjunct dark moon Lilith in the sign of Taurus. And this is also important because Lilith in the sign of Taurus is a very primordial, almost primitive, life force kind of energy, and her message is quite simple. New moon, new beginning, planting seeds of intention, the future, etc. And Lilith tells us, okay, please embody all your hopes and dreams, embody your highest philosophies, aspirations, all of your ideals, but make sure that they are viable here down on earth, because that is Lilith in the sign of Taurus. Whatever value you want to create in your life, Taurus again, whatever changes, long-lasting changes you want to create in your life, will make sure that they are viable, applicable, manifestable, so to speak. And they are basically not against nature, not against the world and the values that are basically dominating the world. You might not agree with modern society, let's say. You might not agree with this quantum leap in technological advancement, robotization, Uranus in the sign of Taurus. But not agreeing is one thing, and going against it is another. Because not agreeing is making sure that somehow you find the means, either psychologically or come up with a grand plan for you to have a specific kind of lifestyle or a job or a career, etc., where you're not involved in that. Or even if you're involved, you're not allowing the discomfort it basically represents, because if something is against your value system, but if it enters your life, or if it exists in your life, it will irritate you. So basically it was an invitation to make sure that you won't get irritated so much that you will fight a blind war. Blindly and, aggressively fighting against the world is never gonna lead you anywhere. So find a means to harmonize yourself with the life you desire to live, basically. So that is why this dark moon Lilith tells us that awareness of what is possible and what is not possible is very, very important, because that is also a different kind of truth. And perhaps this kind of dark moon Lilith truth in the sign of Taurus is the healthiest one. Let me just give you a concrete example. Maybe you are someone who on a soul level absolutely adores nature, you worship nature, you look at, like pictures and everything about trees, plants, animals, nature 24/7, and the way it makes you feel, it is something beyond magic. Yet the moment you step into a forest in the springtime, your allergies almost disintegrate your experience. So would it actually be wise for you to desire to live in the heart of nature, let's say alone, where there's no pharmacy to control your allergies? Or would it be wiser to integrate your love of nature into your life in a different way, where there's always a pharmacy nearby to control your allergies? So basically, this Lilith is telling us, don't do something extremely foolish just because of our ideals and our extremely fixated principles. Let's find a way to have what we desire, what we're planting, what we're creating, living our values in the future, New Moon and Taurus, in such a way that accomplishing them or getting them won't actually defeat the joy in it, the joy of life, the joy of living, the joy of senses, in basically embracing the physical part of life. And another synchronicity, let's say, is that it happens on the 11th. So perhaps, and this is just a theory of mine, so don't take it very seriously, maybe this new moon is going to be that much more significant for people with 11 life path number. 11 can also represent partnerships, but not any kind of partnerships, because 11 is just 2, but when this 2 takes the shape of 2 ones standing individually together, well, that might be fated partnerships, that might be that which you need in your life, and what you need in your life also needs you. It might be a helper, it might be a counterpart, it might be that which completes your one in the sense of everything that makes you individualistic, and Uranus is very, very relevant in that case. Mars is also an individualistic planet, and at the time of this new moon, Mars holds a sextile, a conversation of harmony with Uranus. So it is definitely something that you're putting your ambitions towards, and because it's Cancer, something that is meant to be like a home for you, your place in the world, something meant to offer you safety, the feeling of being protected, like having a house on a roof on top of your head, in any sense possible, sometimes quite physically, because for some people this will definitely be like a new home, a new house. For other people, more symbolically, the feeling of it, that can come in the form of a person, of a source of income, a job, a career, a new best friend. And sometimes it's separation, but in the most positive sense. Let's say that when a child is finally ready to leave home and start their own lives, that is a separation, but it's a separation of joy, it is success, triumph, a very positive cycle in anyone's life. Or let's say when you have someone like your life partner, a parent, or even child, or someone, best friend, who you deeply love or consider as family, the sign of Cancer, having problems or being ill, having some kind of crisis in their lives. So of course you're more present than ever because you have to care and support Mars and the sign of Cancer. So you have to basically extend your self-caring techniques or self-caring ability. You have to take them under your wing as well. And let's say something good happens, they heal, they make progress, they no longer need your care and support that much. And that is also a separation because you release them finally because they are more than okay. You don't have to worry anymore. You don't have to be that concerned anymore. So even if it's a separation, it is the blessing kind of separation. Finally, they made it. Finally, I can focus on myself, the one. I can embody the one. And also, because this Mars sextiles Uranus, this new moon is very, very susceptible to what we wish or what we want to, basically project on other people. Other people, the ones who we deeply love. Those who are the Cancer part of our lives, as in family or very close friends or people who we just love. So what we wish for them, as in good intent, good thoughts, or basically just a emotional or energetic gift that we send their way so that whatever they wish for can manifest that more easily. So this new moon is extremely potent in that sense. And Cancer is also the community. Cancer is also where we belong. So it is perfectly valid if you want to wish something really good for basically your neighborhood, your town, your country, where it is that you belong. And because of this Chiron squaring Mars, it is also profoundly healing. And what's even perhaps more beautiful is that the new moon at 21 degrees of the sign of Taurus, and 21 degree is also very special from a numerological perspective because 21 is 3. 3 in tarot is the Empress. It is Venus. Prosperity, fertility, the joy of life, value, beauty, and something being born. The pregnant mother being able to give birth to her creation, to her child, that which makes her divine, that which makes the divine feminine be an earthly expression of the creational force of the universe. And this new moon at 21 degrees, so very charged with creational and feminine energy, sacred energy, sextiles Neptune in the sign of mystical, spiritual, emotional, subconscious sign of Pisces. So there is magic written all over this. Neptune in its highest sense, it is the higher octave of Venus, so it is unconditional love. It is the divine present in our souls, in our lives. It is divine beauty. It is the beauty within our creative sparks. Like Neptune is always a guardian planet for artists, for spiritualists, for healers, for empaths, etc. This is where illusion can actually have a very healing, a very inspirational force. And because of that dark moon Lilith, there is also like a fail-safe mechanism. It won't allow this Neptune to go overboard, as in to fill us with false hopes and fantasy, like fantasy that can never become reality. It kind of provides a very healthy faith. And at the same time, it also stops martyrdom because Lilith is selfish. So it makes sure that we please both the divine and both the earthly, both others as an unconditional love and empathy, and basically the sacrifice that we want to offer to the world through our existence and life, but also our own journeys, especially as a human being. This new moon also holds an aspect of supreme harmony with Pluto in fellow Earth sign of Capricorn, Pluto retrograde. So it means that one way or another we express our powers It is charged with our deepest inner power. It is charged with our, again, Pluto, the truth. But Pluto is a different truth than Uranus. Pluto is like the psychological truth of who we are. It is like owning the shadow, not allowing the shadow to be hidden in the background and pull the strings. It is the shadow who is revealed, and even when it pulls the strings, it pulls it with our express consent. So it is not able to trick us or live in, for example, false hope, false faith, misaligned beliefs. And Pluto retrograde, we will not allow others to have more control and power over us than we expressively consent. May that other be, in its, let's say, widest sense, let's say the government, Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, authority. May it be a life partner, may it be someone who we surrender our power over to, like a parent or a boss, a manager, or it can be just us, our responsibilities and duties. So this is where we know how much power we have to surrender and how much power we have to own. So it's almost like the seed of intention, the symbolism of the new moon has to make our powers grow, be more grounded and realistic in the future. And what I mean by this is, for example, we don't have to control everything in life. Neither can we allow life to send us into chaos. It's okay to go with the flow, but we have to choose carefully when we ride the wave, and when we kind of see that wave takes us into very deep water, not just outside of our comfort zone, but into danger, then we head back. Again, this is life experience and self-knowledge. Now this Mars also holds a quincunx in conjunction with Saturn, which kind of means that the heart, our feelings, our emotions, the sign of Cancer, and Mars being in it, so that is where our energy, our focus, our empowerment is. And Saturn in Aquarius, rationality, the light of our consciousness, but in a very earthly way, as in our intelligence and intellect, the mind. So these two have to shake hands. They have to be really good bedfellows, even if their nature is totally different, in order for this new moon to manifest in the most harmonious ways. Even when there is no logic between the mind and the heart, there isn't a visible bridge. Being at peace with ourselves and not allowing, for example, obsessions, or for example, the most negative expression of Mars in Cancer, like very, very toxic, suffocating love. It is love because it's love. We desire what's best for whoever the subject or whatever the subject of our love is. Yet we must make sure to have a measure and to also apply logic in order for us to see our actions. Mars action, Saturn judgment, clear judgment. And again, this kind of highlights the theme. We must make sure that what we desire doesn't make us an enemy of the world, regardless of how the world is. You cannot integrate into something which you strongly oppose. And the solution is not ignorance, but compromise. Saturn will never require you to compromise your core human values, but it might require you to compromise always getting your way and will. But the most positive expression of this energy is that life might basically surprise you. For example, you just cannot know who truly sympathizes you and is in truth your biggest fan. You might be totally blind to it, and maybe the energies of this new moon, again, the 11th theme, just reveals it, and you're shocked, you're surprised. You don't even know what to think, but ultimately it is something truly positive and like a karmic gift, Saturn. Even if it was totally outside of your perceptions, maybe the surprise is you have no idea how you truly appreciated you are, because you don't know what is truly in the hearts of other people, and sometimes the surprises are actually quite beautiful. And this also has something to do with another energy. At that time, Mercury, the planet of mind and communication, in its home sign of Gemini, so it's extremely powerful and, let's say, precise, forms a trine, an aspect of supreme harmony with Saturn. Truth, but a trine is a blessing, so truth, revelation, reflection of the best kind. Of course, this energy just on its own can play out in so many different ways. Successful interview, your reputation getting you a very long way. Successful, blessed, fruitful communication, negotiations, business, contracts, reward from your superiors, advancement at a job, something that you create with your intellectual capabilities, writing, etc., gets you a very long way, a reward of some kind. You find out like a methodology, a technique, truth, or the know-how, how to do something that you really, really want. Or simply good news, favorable communication. And at the very, very end of the week, Venus holds the same kind of conversation with Saturn. That which you love grounds, or your magnetism manifests in a very positive way. But this aspect between Saturn and Venus is not going to be exact, so I'll speak about this in next week's horoscope. And before I move on to the other energy, I would just like to mention that because of this Neptune sextile, well, this new moon holds an even greater potential for artists, for musicians, for spiritualists, psychologists, healers, everyone who works with basically Neptune, their souls. Also, this can give you very prophetic dreams, sometimes even instructions in dreams how to accomplish something. But anyway, a creation, an artistic creation, a spiritual creation, done under a Neptune and new moon and Taurus sextile, regardless if it's music, painting, writing, self-expression, arts, whatever, this can be extremely lucky. This can be extremely successful. If you're an artist, once again, this can turn into a big masterpiece of yours. And Mars square Chiron, it can heal you. And heal others through the inspiration you pump into the world. And also Mercury trine Saturn, well, sharing your creation can lead you to great success and rewards. Now the other energy is one of my personal favorites, is Jupiter entering into its home sign of Pisces. Now this is basically not just a fortunate and lucky energy, because this is the place in the sky where Jupiter can work in the most mysterious, mind-blowing ways. So what you strongly believe, but not in a Sagittarian way, but rather in a Piscean, what you dream, your aspirations, but those which you kind of surrender to the universe. Whatever you kind of perceive intuitively, whatever your soul knows, almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, it is all those things that can stir up and start completing themselves. It can simply be just a foreshadowing of those events. Well, because Jupiter will retrograde out from this part of the sky on the 23rd of June. But it can already start this process. It can already set the stage. It can already let you know that a powerful moment of, let's say, healing, karmic completion, regeneration or terminating something really negative, a bad cycle that's been going on in your life, is finally here and beginning. This is also where the divine, the most mysterious and magical expression of it, is simply within us 24/7. So this is definitely a moment of dreams, synchronicities, many episodes of miracles, where it is, let's say, the coincidence or the gesture itself that turns into a true miracle. Jupiter in Pisces is also self-sacrifice, but not in a martyr kind of way, because that would be more Neptunian, because like really going over the limit. Jupiter is benevolence, it is good fortune, it is the bestower of blessing. So even if it's self-sacrifice, it might lead to instant good karma. The sacrifice itself would be the biggest and best thing that ever happened to you. It is, for example, you jump into the water to save another person. Well, it's a blessing to both you and the person you saved. Or if you're the person in the water, your hero might be appearing in your life. It can also be like an internal energy where your soul tells you, listen, go and heal one way or another. If you can't do it yourself, you tried, get help, because you have no future with so much psychological, let's say, turbulence in your life. This is when your soul just tells you to go and finally heal. Do something for yourself. This is also an energy where your soul might tell you, stop this addiction now. If you can't do it your own, seek help. Or you have a long-term medical problem that you have ignored, Jupiter enters Pisces, go and get help. Now, of course, Jupiter is the planet of expansion. So for those who are extremely foolish, those who are very immature on the soul level, well, it might be a different kind of blessing where Jupiter might inspire them, but because due to their own psychological configuration, to go into excess and overdo it, and they end up anyway seeking help because of the excess. And this is also a really good period for karmic harvest, karmic rewards, and not of the Saturnian type, but rather of the Jupiterian type, justice, divine justice. Not exactly getting back what you gave, that would more be like Saturn, but because you've done something really good, life blesses you in the most surprising ways. Jupiter, maybe you get way more than you gave. Maybe you get not just a karmic reward, but a karmic delight. And you know, this Jupiter entering into the sign of Pisces is also a really good energy collectively, because Jupiter can amplify calmness, understanding. It just strengthens the soul so that it can fight off fears and insecurities through faith, through inner wisdom, so to speak. And yes, naturally, every planet in any sign can have a negative expression, but Jupiter is extremely benevolent in Pisces, so it would take quite a lot to bring out its negative expression. And there are kind of two things mainly which really trigger Jupiter's negative expression. One of them is self-victimization, the type when you kind of know that you're doing it on purpose. And the other one is deep ingratitude, like spitting at your blessings. That triggers always the negative expression of Jupiter, because it will give you more of what irritates you, more to be ungrateful for, more to feel like a true victim. So that's why I say it takes a very special kind of person to bring out Jupiter's worst side. in the part of the sky where it has to be the most benevolent. And of course, Pisces is a very karmic sign. So, for a lot of us, it will also be, let's say, bad karma. But this is why Jupiter is so different to Saturn. It won't be like a whipping. It won't be like salt on wounds. It will just be the lesson delivered to us as a philosophy. And if we see what we've done and just regret it in our hearts, that's it. It doesn't have to manifest any further than that. Quite the contrary, it might even turn to something really positive, because if you learn the lesson, maybe Jupiter will simply reward you for being wise enough and for being able to see beyond the stubbornness of the ego. And last but not least, at the very, very end of the week, the moon is going to be joining Mars in Cancer, and together they sextile Uranus. This can be a very powerful emotional surprise of the good kind. As I said, Uranus is truth, and sometimes we don't want to look at the truth because of modesty, because of genuine humbleness. But Uranus is like the more objective truth, so it doesn't care about modesty or humbleness. If you are doing something right, if you are genuinely valuable in one area of life or another, it will reflect back at you in a way you cannot ignore it. So it can be a very, very positive surprise and a delight from people who you love, perhaps. And last but not least, I know there are so many positive aspects in the sky, but when we have such an active Neptune, and when we have such an active Mars in a water sign conversing with Uranus, well, this can also represent flooding, excessive water, tsunamis, seaquakes. Yes, it can also be an emotional tsunami. It can be an emotional flooding. But if it's emotional, it doesn't even have to be the bad kind. And also this Venus trine Saturn, it can also be humanitarian help, especially for those parts of the world which are suffering a lot, either because of the coronavirus situation or its economic ramifications, or Saturn, basically the absence or the lack of professionals, workers needed to handle the situation. So Saturn in Aquarius is a very humanitarian energy. And let's not forget that the new moon is still ruled by Venus, because Taurus is ruled by Venus. And Venus is love. Venus is genuine care. Venus is, love expressed, especially in her home sign of Taurus. So this can represent globally a lot of effort that either the international community or people all over the world do out of love and genuine care. Well, this concludes your horoscope. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for all the likes and shares and wonderful comments. If you'd like to support my work, you can donate on the PayPal link in the description below. Wish everyone a very magical, powerful, prosperous and romantic new moon. Until next time, bye for now.